This audiobook is written and produced by WealthBooks. Imagine owning an apartment building that pays you every month, a tangible engine for your financial freedom. Welcome to multifamily investing, where returns can outpace inflation and barriers to entry are falling fast. This guide strips away jargon to focus squarely on what matters: finding deals, securing financing, conducting due diligence, and managing operations. Whether you're buying your first duplex or a 12-unit complex, here's the ultimate no-fluff roadmap to success. Chapter 1. Decoding the Multifamily Market Landscape. Welcome to the multifamily playground, where your first job is to learn its language. Let's strip away the fluff and get straight to the facts you need today. First, cap rates. Think of cap rate as your deal's quick health check. It's simply the year-one net operating income, NOI, divided by purchase price. If a building throws off $100,000 in annual income after expenses and sells for $1 million, your cap rate is 10%. Rule number 1. Always aim for a cap rate that exceeds the current 10-year Treasury yield by at least 4 points. With Treasuries at roughly 4% today, you need deals yielding 8% or higher to justify the extra risk. If you chase lower cap investments, you're competing with pension funds, and that's a losing game. Next, occupancy. Your cash flow hinges on tenants in place, so treat occupancy like your bank account balance. Rule number 2. Never underwrite below 90% occupancy. If you inherit a property at 85%, budget for 2 to 3 months of targeted leasing before you hit break even. Here's how you check. Pull the rent roll. Count leased units versus total units. Then call local leasing offices to verify vacancy days. If you hit 90% or above in real time, you've passed a basic sanity test. Now, rental growth. You don't want rents flatlining while your mortgage ticks higher. Rule number 3. Only consider submarkets showing at least 2% year-over-year rent growth. What do you find at? Use the U.S. Census Bureau's quick facts for basic city-level data, or sign up for a free trial on sites like Zillow Rental Manager to track local trends. In Houston's Energy Corridor, for example, rents climbed 3.5% last year, signal enough that demand is real. Let me introduce you to Sarah, a schoolteacher turned landlord. She focused on a 12-unit complex in Phoenix. Before she visited, she used rule number 3 and saw the neighborhood had 4% rent growth. On site, she ran rule number 2 and found 10 of 12 units occupied, an 83% rate. That gap told her she needed to spend up to $15,000 on minor renovations and marketing to hit 90%. She negotiated the price down by 6% to cover that expense, instantly improving her effective cap rate. Data providers can feel expensive, but you don't need to overspend. Rule number 4. Lean on free or low-cost sources first. Check county assessor websites for recent sale prices, comb LoopNet for advertised cap rates, and talk to 2 local brokers every month. Sift through their deal logs for properties similar in size and age. If they can't produce 3 comparables in 5 days, they aren't serious. What about demographics? In multifamily, people matter more than walls. Rule number 5. Narrow your hunt to zip codes where population has grown at least 1% annually over the last 3 years. You can pull that from neighborhood data on sites like Neighborhood Scout or even Census Bureau releases. A stable or shrinking population signals stagnant demand. Avoid those areas. Finally, economic drivers. You want job growth in industries that pay rents on time. Rule number 6. Scout for metros with at least 1 major employer adding staff, and make sure the company isn't laying off en masse. If a metro's primary employer announces a 10% headcount reduction, you'll see vacancy spikes 6 months later. Use local business journals or online press releases to stay ahead of these announcements. By now, you have 6 ironclad rules to decode any multifamily market. Cap rate premium. Target at least 4% above Treasuries. Minimum occupancy. Underwrite on 90% or better. Rent growth threshold. Only in submarkets with greater than or equal to 2% annual growth. Cost-effective data. Leverage free sources and 2 local brokers. Population growth. Focus on zip codes growing greater than or equal to 1% yearly. Job market health. Confirm ongoing hiring from major local employers. Follow these rules, and you'll cut through noise, avoid common rookie traps, and zero in on deals that actually perform. Next, we'll show you exactly where to hunt for those opportunities, so you spend less time scrolling and more time closing. Chapter 2, Deal Sourcing, where the opportunities live. You're scrolling through hundreds of online ads and shaking your head. Overpriced units, stale listings, and brokers who don't return calls. You know good multifamily deals exist, but the traditional path feels clogged. Let's clear the road with 3 simple, actionable rules to find opportunities before they hit the market and before your competition even smells them. Rule 1. Dominate the online marketplaces, but don't get stuck there. Start with LoopNet and Crexi. Spend 15 minutes every Monday updating your saved search filters. Set cap rate minimums at 5%. Specify properties between 4 and 12 units, and exclude anything listed longer than 90 days. Turn on instant email alerts, then delete anything that doesn't match those exact metrics. No browsing for fun. Treat this like a triage station. If it doesn't fit, move on. Rule 2. Build a 1 call per week habit with local brokers. Identify the top 3 multifamily specialists in your city. Ask for referrals at your bank or search LinkedIn profiles with multifamily in your town name. Every Friday morning, pick up the phone and say, I'm a cash-ready investor looking for off-market properties in zip codes X, Y, Z. What have you got? Keep the call under 5 minutes. Track responses in a simple spreadsheet. Broker name, date called, property type, and next follow-up. That weekly rhythm turns a passive lead list into a live pipeline. Rule 3. Take the direct route to owners. County property records are your gold mine. Use free online portals or invest $50 in a service like PropStream to pull absentee or out-of-state owner lists for 4 to 12 unit buildings. Mail 100 personalized postcards each month, stamped, not bulk mail, with a brief note, interested in buying your address property. Let's talk. Handwrite the recipient's name. Track replies on that same spreadsheet. Case in point, Sarah, a mom-and-pop investor in Ohio, mailed 75 postcards in June. By July, she secured a 5-unit complex at 10% below market because the owner hadn't considered selling until she asked. Those are your 3 core channels. But real success comes from mixing them. Block time, Monday for LoopNet, Wednesday for postcards, Friday for brokers. Treat each slot like a non-negotiable appointment. Now, let's tackle common pain points. I get too many low-quality leads. Narrow your filters ruthlessly. On LoopNet, drop properties with deferred maintenance flags or listings older than 30 days. In your direct outreach, exclude buildings under 3 years old. These owners almost never sell. If a broker sends you a dud, reply with thanks, but I need units with at least 90% occupancy and under-market rents. Call me when you have one. Consistency will train them. I don't know what to say. Use a 15-second pitch. I'm an experienced cash buyer focusing on well-maintained 4 to 12 unit properties in your area. I close in 30 days or less. What do you have? Practice it until it sounds natural. No fluff, just facts. I get ghosted. 3-touch rule. If you don't hear back within a week, follow up via email or text. Try a different angle. Still looking for the right multifamily deal? Is there a property you've considered selling but held off? I could move on it today. A friend of mine, Carlos, used that line on his 3rd follow-up and landed a pocket listing he closed 3 weeks later. Finally, diversify with guerrilla tactics. Drive around target neighborhoods at sunrise looking for rent signs older than 30 days. Snap a photo, note the address, then look up the owner and reach out. Attend your local apartment owners association monthly meeting. Set a goal to exchange business cards with 5 people. Ask every new contact, who else should I meet? Always be collecting referrals. By combining laser-focused online searches, weekly broker outreach, and targeted owner mail, you'll build a deal pipeline that fills itself. Track every lead, ruthlessly filter out noise, and follow up until you hear yes. That's how you move from endless scrolling to signing purchase agreements on multifamily properties, month after month. Chapter 3. Underwriting Fundamentals, Crunching the Numbers. Before you sign on the dotted line, you've got to know exactly what you're buying and what it's going to pay you. Underwriting is simply your way of testing whether a deal makes sense. Let's break it into 7 rules you can follow, no MBA required. Collect your rent comps like a detective. Start by finding at least 3 similar apartment buildings listed for sale or lease in the same neighborhood. Pull data from LoopNet or your local MLS, focusing on units of the same size and age, within a half-mile and listed in the last 30 days. Jot down the monthly rents. If 2 bedrooms go for $1,200 and 1 bedroom's $900, use those numbers, don't guess. Rule of thumb for vacancy. No building stays 100% leased forever. Subtract a vacancy allowance, typically 5% of your gross scheduled income. If your 10-unit building should bring in $120,000 a year at full rent, expect $6,000 in downtime. That gives you an effective gross income of $114,000. Estimate operating expenses with a simple ratio. All those costs, repairs, insurance, property tax, management fees, add up. A solid rule: budget 35 to 40% of effective gross income for expenses. For our example, 37% of $114,000 is about $42,200. Write down every line item you know. Property tax, $12,000. Insurance, $3,000. Maintenance reserve, $2,500. Management fee, 6% of rent, $6,840. Tally them up, and if you're under or over your 35 to 40% window, dig deeper on the big-ticket items. Calculate net operating income, NOI. Here's your core profit number. INE. Copy. Edit. NOI equals effective gross income, operating expenses. In our case, $114,000 to $42,200 equals $71,800. This is the cash the property generates before debt and taxes. Find a cap rate to judge value. Cap rate tells you what return the market demands. Divide NOI by the property's price. If you're looking at a $900,000 building, jinx. Copy. Edit. Cap rate equals $71,800 divided by $900,000 equals 0.08 or 8%. Aim for markets where cap rates sit between 5%, tough urban cores, and 8%, up-and-coming suburbs. Anything under 5%, you're paying a premium. Over 8%, check for hidden risks. Figure your cash-on-cash return. Investors care about real cash in their pocket. If you put down 20% equity, $180,000 on our $900,000 deal, and your annual debt service, mortgage payments, is $40,000, your first-year cash flow is jinx. Copy. Edit. Cash flow equals NOI. Debt service equals $71,800 to $40,000 equals $31,800. Then, PGSQL. Copy. Edit. Cash-on-cash return equals $31,800 divided by $180,000 is almost equal to 17.7%. If your lender offers 70% loan-to-value at 4% interest, plug those numbers into any free mortgage calculator online. Doing this math before you make an offer keeps surprises out of your closing. Run a simple downside stress test. Always underwrite a what-if case. What if rents drop 10% or expenses rise 10%? Recalculate. Rents, $120,000 times 0.9 equals $108,000 gross, effective $102,600. Expenses, $42,200 times 1.1 equals $46,420. NOI, $102,600 to $46,420 equals $56,180. Your cap rate at $900,000 now is 6.2%, and cash-on-cash might fall to 10%. If that still meets your minimum hurdle, Say 8% after stress. Move ahead. If not, keep negotiating or walk away. Short case study. Sarah, a first-time buyer in Cleveland, found a 12-unit building listed at $750,000. She pulled rent comps, $850 average, and conservatively assumed 5% vacancy. She budgeted 38% for expenses after calling 3 local property managers for quotes. Her NOI came in at $54,600 for a cap rate of 7.3%. With 25% down and a 4.5% loan, her cash-on-cash hit 12% annually. Where her stress test still returned 9%, she made a clean offer and closed 2 weeks later. Your next steps: download or sketch a 1-page pro forma spreadsheet. Input your 3 rent comps, vacancy rate, and expense estimates. Calculate your NOI, cap rate, and cash-on-cash. Run 1 stress scenario and 1 upside scenario, plus 5% rents, minus 5% expenses. By turning these rules into habit, you'll underwrite like a pro, spotting strong deals, avoiding money pits, and building real cash flow from day one. Chapter 4. Financing Simplified. Loans you can handle. You've identified a solid 4-unit building in a stable neighborhood, but your head is spinning with loan jargon. LTVs, DSCRs, amortization schedules. Relax. In this chapter, we'll strip every term down to its core, show you exactly where to focus, and give you simple rules to get your financing across the finish line. First, know your 2 most important numbers: down payment percentage and debt service coverage ratio, DSCR. Think of down payment as your skin in the game. For a small multifamily property, conventional lenders typically ask for 20 to 25%. Rule of thumb: aim for 20% or less by shopping FHA loans if you qualify. Case study: Sarah and Miguel bought their first 4-plex with just 3.5% down using an FHA 203B loan, then refinanced into a conventional loan after leasing 2 vacant units. The takeaway? Don't assume 20% is set in stone. Talk FHA if your credit is over 620 and you plan light renovations. DSCR measures your property's ability to cover its loan payments. It's simply net operating income divided by annual debt service. Lenders want a DSCR of at least 1.20, meaning your building brings in 20% more income than your yearly mortgage payments. Rule of thumb: underwrite every deal at a DSCR of 1.25 to give yourself a cushion. If your DSCR is 1.10 on paper, push rents up, negotiate a lower interest rate, or add a co-borrower. Next, interest rates and amortization lengths. A 30-year amortization lowers your monthly payment but keeps your rate slightly higher. A 15-year amortization will hike up your payment by 20 to 30%, but let you build equity fast. Rule of thumb: choose 30-year amortization for your first deal so your cash flow cushion stays healthy. As you gain confidence, consider 20-year paydowns on your second or third property to pay less interest over time. Now, the actionable steps to secure a loan. Gather your paperwork up front. Lenders expect 2 years of tax returns, recent pay stubs, bank statements, and a rent roll. Tip: create a single PDF folder organized by document type. This small effort cuts underwriting time by days. Get pre-qualified, not just pre-approved. A pre-qualification letter shows lenders you meet basic criteria. A pre-approval means they've verified your income and credit. Start with pre-qualification to test your eligibility across multiple lenders without impacting your credit score. Once you zero in on a property, secure full pre-approval. Shop at 3 lender types: local community banks and credit unions. They often underwrite with more flexibility on smaller deals. Regional mortgage brokers. Brokers can pit dozens of wholesale lenders against each other. Online lenders. Good for speed and competitive rates, but watch out for hidden fees. Rule of thumb: get rate quotes and term sheets from at least one of each category to see how they differ. Negotiate beyond rate. Don't fixate on the interest rate alone. Ask lenders to reduce or waive origination fees, underwriting fees, processing fees, and prepayment penalties. A 1% origination fee on a $500,000 loan is $5,000 wasted. Speak up. Every dollar you save on fees drops straight to your cash-on-cash return. Understand balloon versus fixed loans. A 7-year fixed loan with a 30-year amortization, common in small multifamily, will reset after 7 years unless you refinance or pay off. If you don't plan to hold longer, this product can give you a lower rate. Rule of thumb: match your loan term to your hold strategy. Don't pick a 10-year balloon if you plan to sell in 5. Build a relationship with your lender. After closing, keep your lender updated on lease renewals and occupancy rates. A smooth annual check-in can unlock faster approvals on future refinancing or new property loans. Finally, let's address the biggest pain point: the fear of being turned down. If you're told no because your DSCR is slightly low, don't walk away. Negotiate. Ask what DSCR they need, then run a sensitivity model. What if you raised rents by $50 per unit? Could you bump DSCR above 1.25? If yes, you're back in the game. If credit score is the hang-up, delay closing by 2 weeks to pay off a credit card. A 20-point bump in FICO can reduce your rate by 0.25%, saving thousands over the life of the loan. Remember, financing is not mystical. It's a series of clear steps that anyone can learn. Master your numbers, organize your paperwork, shop strategically, and negotiate every fee. By following these actionable rules, you'll transform loan applications from anxiety-provoking paperwork into a repeatable system that drives your multifamily portfolio forward. In the next chapter, we'll dig into the no-fluff due diligence checklist that makes or breaks every deal. Chapter 5. Due Diligence Essentials. Before you sign on the dotted line, due diligence is your safety net. It's the process that separates a good deal from a money pit. Picture yourself as a detective. You're hunting for hidden surprises that will cost you time and money down the road. In this chapter, we'll walk you through a no-nonsense checklist for site inspections, rent roll audits, lease reviews, environmental reports, and zoning verifications, each broken down into simple, actionable rules you can follow step by step. When you first step onto the property, treat it like a crime scene. Rule number 1. Bring a printed checklist and a tape measure. Walk every hallway, inside each unit at midday when lighting is worst, and around the exterior after a rain to spot drainage issues. Look for hairline cracks in walls and ceilings. Then use your tape measure to check if doors and windows still square up properly. In one case, a mom-and-pop investor named Sarah noticed the front door rubbing against the frame, a sign the foundation had shifted. She insisted on a structural engineer's report, which saved her from buying into a 6-figure repair job. Next, dive into the rent roll audit. Don't trust the seller's word. Insist on an Excel download of the last 6 months of rent payments. Rule number 2. Cross-check that list against bank deposits. If you see 12 units on paper, but only 11 deposits, there's a gap you need to explain. Look for free rent concessions buried in the ledger. In one example, a seller claimed 95% occupancy, but had granted 3 months of free rent to attract tenants, an expense that wiped out the first year's cash flow. Keep an eye out for lease start and end dates, rent escalations, and security deposit balances. Flag anything that doesn't match your underwriting model and demand clarification before moving forward. Then it's lease by lease time. Rule number 3. Highlight auto-renewal clauses and sublease restrictions in bright yellow. Some leases roll over automatically with market rate hikes you may not notice until month 12. Others forbid subletting, severely limiting tenant flexibility and your ability to replace problem tenants. I once saw a lease that buried CAM, common area maintenance, charges under tenant responsibility, which tacked on an extra $200 per unit per month. Catching that one detail boosted my projected net operating income by $24,000 annually. Environmental and zoning checks often feel like dry homework, but they're non-negotiable. Rule number 4. Order a Phase 1 environmental site assessment within your first week of inspection. A qualified consultant will flag underground storage tanks, soil contamination, or wetlands, any of which can trigger 6-figure cleanup bills or even force you to vacate the property. Simultaneously, call the local planning department and request a zoning compliance letter. Confirm the building's current use matches the zoning code and ask whether any pending changes, like a new mixed-use overlay, could affect your plans. In one Florida deal, a simple call revealed a city plan to rezone the block for commercial zoning only, eliminating the ability to lease new residential units and tanking the property's value. Keeping these documents organized is half the battle. Rule number 5. Create a shared folder in Google Drive or Dropbox with subfolders named Inspections, Leases, Environmental, and Zoning. Use consistent file names like Site Inspection _2025-04-10.pdf so nothing falls through the cracks. Assign deadlines. Demand drafts of every report within 10 days of your letter of intent, and schedule a weekly check-in call with your broker or attorney to confirm you're on track. Missing your review window can cost you your deposit or lock you into a deal with unseen liabilities. Finally, set firm stoplights. Rule number 6. If any single inspection or audit exposes a surprise repair or expense exceeding 1% of the purchase price, pause and renegotiate. That unexpected sewer line replacement might not kill the deal, but it should earn you a seller credit or price reduction. In one case, an investor discovered termite damage during a wood-destroying insect report equal to a $15,000 fix. News that completely changed her walkaway threshold and ultimately saved her from a bad investment. By following these 6 simple rules, checklist in hand, rent roll verified, leases highlighted, environmental and zoning confirmed, files organized, and stoplight thresholds set, you'll turn due diligence from a dreaded chore into your strongest negotiating tool. No jargon, no fluff, just actionable steps that protect your investment and give you the confidence to pull the trigger on multifamily properties that really pay off. You've closed the deal, signed the papers, and the keys are in your hand. Now the real challenge begins, turning a stack of bricks into a reliable income machine. In this chapter, we're going to strip away the fluff and dive straight into managing your multifamily property like a pro. No expensive software required, no jargon, just tried and true rules that protect your cash flow and your sanity. First things first, tenant screening isn't optional. A single bad apple can bleed you dry with late rent, property damage, and eviction costs. Here's your simple rule. Get proof, not promises. Require each applicant to submit 2 recent pay stubs, a credit check report, and a landlord reference. If any part of that package is missing or raises a red flag, a history of bounce checks, a string of late payments, a landlord who won't vouch for them, move on. When Sarah bought her 6-unit building in Denver, she skipped the phone reference and wound up paying $4,000 to evict a tenant who'd trashed the kitchen. Don't make her mistake. Documentation first, empathy later. Next, lock in your lease details so you don't discover surprises 6 months in. Your lease is more than a piece of paper. It's a contract that shields you from misunderstandings. Keep it straightforward. A clear rent due date, a late fee schedule with exact dollar amounts, and spelled out maintenance responsibilities. If you want tenants to report leaks within 24 hours, write it in. If you expect monthly pest inspections, include that too. When leases omit these points, you're stuck in vague disputes that eat your weekends. Treat your lease like a roadmap. If it isn't written down, it doesn't exist. Collecting rent should never feel like chasing ghosts. Automate as much as possible by insisting on electronic payments, ACH, debit card, or rent collection apps that deposit funds directly into your bank account. Set up an automatic late fee that kicks in on day 2 without you lifting a finger. And here's a rule of thumb. If rent isn't in your account by day 3, start the late notice process immediately. Mike in Atlanta learned this the hard way when he gave tenants a friendly reminder, grace period, and ended up with 2 months of back rent that he never recovered. Don't be Mike. Write the rules, enforce them consistently, and your cash flow stays predictable. Wear your maintenance hat every day, not just when something explodes. Walk the property yourself at least once a week and carry a simple checklist. Exterior lights, gutter debris, door locks, and a random selection of apartment doors to check for leaks or pests. Make notes on your phone and tackle quick fixes, like tightening a handrail or replacing a burnt-out bulb, within 48 hours. That small effort sends a message. You're attentive, and tenants won't put off reporting real issues. When you catch a small leak before it ruins your drywall, you save hundreds of dollars. Now, vendors, don't let them dictate your terms. Build relationships with 2 electricians, 2 plumbers, and a general handyman who understand multifamily work. Get their rates in writing, travel fees, hourly rates, parts markup, and negotiate a bulk discount if you promise them at least 10 service calls a year. Hold them accountable with a simple rule. If they don't show up on time or leave the place messier than they found it, you drop them. I once swapped out a carpet cleaner after 3 late arrivals, and watching my new cleaner show up early and respect tenants earned me a referral to another 12-unit owner. Quality vendors pay for themselves through reliability. Budgeting for repairs and capital expenses can feel overwhelming, but here's an easy rule. Set aside 5% of your annual gross rent for routine maintenance and another 5% for capital improvements. If you're building pools and $120,000 a year, sock away $6,000 for leaks, HVAC filters, and paint touch-ups, plus another $6,000 for roof patches and appliance replacements. Track these reserves in a separate bank account so you never accidentally spend them. That way, when your water heater quits in Unit 4, you don't have to raid your personal savings or scramble for a high-interest loan. Finally, communication is your secret weapon. Send a monthly 1-page update to tenants, completed repairs, upcoming inspections, and any building-wide reminders, like holiday trash schedules. Keep it under 200 words. When tenants see you working and planning, they're more likely to treat the property and your bank account with respect. And if you ever need to increase rent or enforce a lease clause, you'll have built enough goodwill to make those conversations polite rather than hostile. By following these no-nonsense rules, document every applicant, lock in your lease terms, automate rent collection, perform weekly walkthroughs, curate reliable vendors, fund your maintenance reserves, and communicate consistently, you turn day-to-day operation from a fire drill into a smooth, predictable system. That's how you protect your investment, your sanity, and your bottom line. Chapter 7. Value-add strategies for higher returns. You've closed on your first multifamily property, and the raw cash flow is solid, but you know you can squeeze more out of this deal. Welcome to value-add investing, where smart tweaks and targeted improvements drive outsized returns. Let's cut through the noise and get real. Here's how to pick the right upgrades, control costs, and guarantee a fast payback on every dollar you spend. First, focus on high ROI unit renovations. Forget luxury kitchens or soaking tubs. Your tenants care about functionality and curb appeal. Start with surface-level refreshes that deliver the biggest rent bump for the smallest outlay. A fresh coat of neutral paint, replace cabinet hardware, and updated light fixtures can justify an extra $50 to $75 per month in rent. Rule of thumb: aim for upgrades that cost under $1,500 per unit and deliver at least a $60 monthly rent increase. Lower costs mean faster payback. If you spend $1,200 to lift rent $60 per month, you recoup your investment in just 20 months. Next, tackle in-unit amenities that tenants actually use. You may have heard about gourmet coffee bars or communal co-working spaces, but start simpler. Installing in-unit washer/dryer hookups costs roughly $600 apiece and lets you charge $35 extra per month. At that rate, you're looking at an 18-month payback. If full hookups aren't feasible, consider washer/dryer machines in a shared laundry room. Shop refurbished commercial units for under $4,000 each. At $2 per load and 250 loads per month, that's $500 in revenue, an 8-month payback on a machine. Don't underestimate curb appeal. Your property's first impression sets the tone for marketing and renewals. Invest in landscaping upgrades. Mulch beds, trimmed hedges, and seasonal plantings can be done for below $5 per linear foot. That small outlay can reduce vacancy periods by 10 to 15% based on local brokerage data because prospects perceive the building as well cared for. Combine that with a new mailbox cluster and building signage. Budget $2,000 total to elevate your listing photos and justify higher rents. Now, let's talk expense reduction, because boosting net operating income isn't just about raising rents. Audit your utilities. If you're on master metered electricity, install sub-metering devices, about $150 per unit. Tenants pay for exactly what they use, which typically cuts total electric costs by 20%. Similarly, switch all common area and unit entry lights to LED fixtures. They cost $8 to $12 each and last 5 times longer than incandescent bulbs. You'll see utility bills drop immediately, improving your DSCR, debt service coverage ratio, and strengthening your refinancing options. One often overlooked tactic is ancillary income streams. Do you have extra storage space, a vacant lot, or an used rooftop? Convert that underutilized square footage into storage lockers, parking permits, or even a small rooftop solar array lease. Storage lockers rent for $30 to $50 per month. If you add 10 lockers at $35 each, that's $350 extra monthly, enough to cover your landscaping budget and then some. To keep projects on schedule and budget, adopt a project management framework. Set firm timelines and penalties. If the painter isn't done in 5 days, deduct $100 per day. Buy materials in bulk. Order paint and fixtures for all units at once to secure volume discounts. Hire a local handyman network instead of large contractors for small jobs. Their overhead is lower and they'll hustle to keep your repeat business. Here's a quick case study. Sarah bought a 12-unit walk-up in Phoenix and faced 10% vacancy. She spent $1,300 per unit on paint, hardware, and light fixtures. Next, she added shared laundry for $8,500 total and introduced sub-metering for $1,800. Within 3 months, rents rose $65 per unit. The laundry room generated $400 monthly, and utility costs dropped by $150 monthly. Annual NOI jumped by $12,780, transforming a middling yield into a standout performer. Finally, always stress test your assumptions. Before committing to an upgrade, run a simple spreadsheet. Cost: how much will you spend total? Revenue increase: what's the monthly lift in rent or cost savings? Payback period: divide cost by monthly gain. Target under 24 months. If any project exceeds that threshold, cut or scale it back. And track every expense and dollar returned. This creates a proven template you can replicate on your next deal. Value-add investing isn't magic. It's disciplined execution. Prioritize small, high-impact improvements, control your budgets, and measure results. Do that, and you'll watch your multifamily investment transform from a basic income stream into a true wealth-building engine. Let's talk about taxes and legal structures, the stuff that might feel intimidating but can make or break your multifamily investment success. I'm going to break this down step by step, so it's easy to follow, even if you're not a CPA or a lawyer. By the end of this chapter, you'll know how to protect your investment, reduce your tax bill, and avoid rookie mistakes. First up, depreciation. This is one of the best-kept secrets in real estate investing. Imagine you own a duplex worth $500,000. The IRS lets you pretend that the building loses value over time, even though it's probably appreciating. For residential properties, you can write off the value of the building, not the land, over 27.5 years. Let's say the building's value is $400,000. Divide that by 27.5, and you get about $14,500. That's $14,500 in paper losses every year, even if your property is cash flowing like crazy. Pro tip: work with a CPA who understands real estate to maximize these deductions. If you're serious about tax savings, consider a cost segregation study. This allows you to accelerate depreciation on specific parts of the property, like appliances, carpet, or even landscaping. Yes, it costs a few $1,000s up front, but for larger properties, the tax savings can be worth tens of thousands. Now let's move on to entity structuring. One of the first decisions you'll face is whether to buy the property in your personal name or through an entity like an LLC. Here's the deal. Owning multifamily property in your name exposes you to personal liability. If a tenant sues you, all your personal assets, your house, your car, your savings, could be at risk. An LLC creates a legal wall between your personal assets and the property. Pain point: setting up an LLC might sound like a hassle, but it's usually straightforward. In most states, you can file online in under an hour for less than $300. Once it's set up, you'll want to keep a separate bank account for the property. Don't mix your personal and business finances. That's a rookie mistake that could void your legal protections. Quick case study. Sarah bought her first fourplex in her own name because she didn't want to spend money on an LLC. A tenant slipped on icy stairs and filed a lawsuit. The tenant's lawyer targeted not just the property, but also Sarah's personal savings and car. If Sarah had used an LLC, only the property's assets would have been at risk. Next, let's talk about 1031 exchanges. This is the golden ticket for deferring capital gains taxes. Here's how it works. When you sell a property, the IRS usually taxes you on the profit. But with a 1031 exchange, you can reinvest that profit into another like-kind property and defer the tax bill. Simple rule. Start planning the exchange before you sell. The timeline is strict. You have 45 days to identify potential replacement properties and 180 days to close on one. Work with a qualified intermediary, someone who holds the sale proceeds in escrow, to make it happen. Case study. Mark sold a duplex for $600,000, making a $200,000 profit. Instead of paying around $40,000 in capital gains taxes, he used a 1031 exchange to buy a 10-unit building. That extra $40,000 went straight into his new investment, boosting his cash flow. Now, a quick word on tax traps to avoid. If you're thinking about flipping a multifamily property instead of holding it, be aware of short-term capital gains taxes. These are taxed as regular income and can take a huge bite out of your profit. Holding the property for at least a year reduces this to long-term capital gains, which are taxed at lower rates. Finally, let's touch on tax-advantaged retirement accounts. Did you know you can use a self-directed IRA or SOLO 401k to invest in real estate? It's not for everyone, but if you're looking for creative ways to fund your first multifamily deal, this could be an option. Just keep in mind, all income and expenses must flow through the retirement account, and there are strict rules about personal use. Actionable tips recap. Leverage depreciation to reduce taxable income. Consider a cost segregation study for bigger properties. Use an LLC to protect your personal assets and keep business finances separate. Plan 1031 exchanges carefully to defer taxes and reinvest profits. Avoid short-term capital gains taxes by holding properties for at least a year. Explore self-directed retirement accounts if you're short on upfront capital. Remember, the goal isn't just to save money. It's to build a sustainable, scalable investment strategy. Taxes and legal structures aren't the most glamorous topics, but they're the backbone of any successful multifamily business. Take the time to get this right, and your future self will thank you.